My name is Carlos Taboada, as I said, and what I want to do is first give you a brief description of the situation in the school district where I'm working at, and then I will try to give you some what I think is necessary historical background, and then if time allows, I will get into the specifics of the struggle that our group, Defend Public Education Now, is waging in the Bay Area. Well, first let me tell you about our school district. It's West Contra Costa Unified School District. Is located across the bay, across from San Francisco, and we have a population of about 30,000 students with 13 charter schools. They are all located in the city of Richmond. Later we'll get into the specifics of why they happen to be all located in the city of Richmond, given that the West Contra Costa School District encompasses 6 different cities, but they all happen to be in the city of Richmond. Just some general information. In the U.S. today, we have more than 6,400 charter schools serving approximately 2 million students. Here in California, we have around 1,500 schools. Last time I heard, 2 years ago, we had 1,242, serving more than 500,000 students. That's about 9% of the student population of the state. The situation in our district is extremely urgent. We have a budget of approximately $355 million a year, and just last school year, but first let me say what charter schools are in case there are any misunderstanding as to what we're talking about. Charter schools are publicly financed, privately run schools operating independently of the school district where they are located, okay? So that should help, drive the point home. So I was saying this last year, out of a budget of $355 million, the charter schools received $98 million. That goes for average daily attendance, salaries and wages of teachers and administrators, equipment, just the running of the schools. By next year, if we already have approved 2 more charters for this for next year, and about 3 or 4 more are in line to get approved. If all these 4 more additional charters are approved, we will be subsidizing the charter schools in our district with half the budget. Now consider that they won't have half the student body. Okay, they will have, right now they have approximately 17% of the student body. So, but first let me say something. It may seem incongruous or out of place somehow in a binational conference around NAFTA to bring the issue of schooling and school privatization, but it is not. Okay, it is not for several reasons. One, the same process of transforming education, of imposing on public education a corporate model is going on in Mexico. And behind that process here in the United States and behind that process in Mexico lies the drive of capital to accomplish basically two main objectives: to gain control of the labor process, okay? Mm-hmm. Gain control of the labor process and produce a fragmented, unskilled labor force. See, so they try to accomplish that in the factories, in the fields, and in the schools. So let me start with a little bit of background, because we need to understand that this attack on public education in Mexico and in the United States did not begin neither with Trump or with Obama or with whoever was before Obama. You know, it didn't start. Okay, it has changed modalities, but it is a process that began, and I'm going to start at the beginning of the last century. Okay, so let me begin with that. So early in the 20th century, public schools resisted an attempt of monopoly corporations and philanthropic foundations to replace it by a corporate model a corporate model characterized by rigid standards and testing, and this is the important thing, a model based on the principles of scientific management, okay? We have all heard of Winslow Taylor's principles of scientific management, and remember that model was first imposed in the factories. It really consisted of breaking down the time that a worker, all his activities, break them down and try to minimize wasted effort, or turn the worker into a machine as much as possible. Now, this scientific, in quotations, efficient management spread very soon to the administration of public schools. The standards testing and the tailorized schools became the defining principles for a new utopia, the corporate model school system. I will give you a couple of examples. In 1911, a man named Harrison Emerson gave a speech to the High School Association of New York City entitled Scientific Management and High School Efficiency. He named 7 key principles for the scientific management of secondary education. And as I read them, you will notice that we are still, in one way or another, being guided by those. They are standard records, planning, standard conditions, standardized operations, standard instructions, standard schedules, and efficiency reward, okay? This efficiency reward, in its latest reincarnation, has taken the form of the attempt to tie salaries, teachers, to student performance, okay? Now, we had an even more explicit statement of the corporate aim to turn teachers, and I'm viewing here teachers as what we are, intellectual workers, into white-collar proletarians. Franklin Bobbitt, a specialist in educational administration of the University of Chicago, wrote in a little book called The Supervision of City Schools. And we should pay attention to what he says. And remember, this is in the early 20th century, okay? It says the worker must be kept supplied with detailed instructions as to the work to be done, the standards to be reached, the method to be employed, and the appliances to be used. Teachers cannot be permitted to follow caprice in method. When a method is clearly superior to all other methods, when a method superior to all other methods has been discovered, it alone can be employed. To neglect this function and to excuse one's negligence by claiming the value of the freedom of the teacher was perhaps justifiable under earlier empiricism, when the supervisors were merely promoted teachers and on the scientific side at least knew little more about standards and methods than the rank and file. Now, the 2 minutes left, well, I think the 10 minutes are gonna run like water. So let me get to just mention briefly the next steps. Then we had, as it is today, this privatization effort was financed by tax-free philanthropic foundations, the Carnegie Foundation, the Rockefeller family, and others of the like, financed the National Assessment of Education Progress. The Rockefeller Foundation contributed to the creation of the Educational Testing Service of the 1930s and 40s. So today, the corporate drive to reform public education, as we know, is funded by the likes of Bill Gates and his foundation, the Walton Family Foundation, who owns Walmart, the KIPS Foundation. KIPS, by the way, stands for Knowledge is Power Project. The KIPS Foundation, which is owned by the Fisher family that owns the Gap Corporation, the A's, and also runs the rocket ship schools. And also we have the California Charter School Association, controlled by Reed Hastings, who owns Netflix, and also Facebook owner Zuckerberg with his foundation. So this attempt to impose on public education a corporate model I say was partly unsuccessful. It was answered by people that line up with John Dewey and the likes of Frank Bobbitt. He stated, I know the time is out, let me just read this last passage from his 1906 book, Democracy and Education. He says, "There is nothing to which education is subordinate save more education. The inclination to learn from life itself and to make the conditions of life such that all will learn in the process of living is the finest product of education." When I was reading this quotation, I came to mind a famous phrase by Commandant Ernesto Che Guevara that said, let's make society a huge school. That's the concept of learning for life. Fidel Castro also said at one point in a speech I heard, said the aim of every professional is to make his own profession obsolete. So a doctor should strive to make a society so healthy that his services are not needed. And we as teachers should strive to have a society where students learn by living and by interacting with one another in the production of the daily necessities of life. I failed to mention, for lack of time, following attempts, No Child Left Behind, that left the stated as a punitive measure. Remember, in those days, non-performing schools were punished. He also had 7 points, and the 7th point was, well, you will be turned into a charter school, into a charter school. And finally, just for your information, we should know that the first charter school was founded in 1991 in Minnesota. In California, it started in 1992 with the California Charter School Act. And just for our information and enlightenment, we should know that the gentleman that proposed the charter school model was a liberal by the name of Albert Shankner. That I must admit that he had the best of intentions, because his idea was to have autonomous, independent, teacher-run and unionized schools dependent on the district where they were held. Well, only 6 years later, he was the first one to denounce what was then the beginning of the corporatization of public schools. So this new phase, we covered a little bit briefly 1911. Now we jump to the 1990s. And this last phase of the official charterization begins in 1994, because 6 years after his proposal in San Francisco, he denounced the Detroit School District for, and this is a quote from his column in the New York Times, Where We Stand. He said he denounced for the Detroit School District for giving $4 million, for starters, to a group of people who are eager for public funds but could care less about public education.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So the idea is just simply that they didn't start the charterization, the corporatization of our public school system didn't start just with when the first charter was started. It's a process that dates back at least 1 century,
Right.
and it's tied to the development, the monopolization of capital. And right now, today, just one last thing, we should not separate this attempt to turn our public schools into private schools, basically. We should not separate it from the current crisis, global crisis of the capitalist system, and in particular this imperialist capitalism that we are suffering under in this country. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Rosemary, yes.
Yeah, just a dovetail into that, education has always been kept, the control of information, knowledge, and cognition has always been controlled or owned. You know, think of the the feudal guys writing out only the people in the church knew how to read, et cetera, and then under the industrial system of capitalism, we've had this. But besides the impact of NAFTA on all the other areas of our life, including the environment, the economy, and our health, et cetera, when NAFTA came in 1994, that was the first time education was defined as a commodity that could be bought and sold on the world market. And that was the real drive behind the privatization of public education. And it's been unrelenting ever since. Not just here, but of course in Mexico, Puerto Rico, Guatemala, Canada, and throughout the world. Education prior to that had been very organized to prepare people for industrial production. And that now education industry generates billions of dollars. So let me just go over some features. We've already talked about charters, No Child Left Behind. We know the key players like Eli Broad, the Walton family, who owns Walmart, Bill Gates are all behind this. They have their elected government officials at front for them, but now we've got DeVos directly in the White House. It's just right in there, just like we have a school board in Los Angeles, which is run by charter people, even though the president is supposed to step down, but he refuses to because of the scandal. And that's more money went into that school board race than any other school board race in the country.
He was demoted recently. He's no longer.
Excuse me,
chair.
when we get done, let's do the questions. Okay, so, let me go on to this. So, we have the scripted curricula. Some of you might have had, open court if you were
Open court was
students
the
here.
first,
You had standardized test. There's three major testing companies in the world, one of which is Pearson, based in England, that provides tests for 70 countries, including Mexico. And if a country in South America wants to, for example, get a loan from the World Bank, if they're pressured, one of the conditions is, yeah, you'll accept our standardized testing program and adopt it in as a condition of getting that loan. Let's see, Pearson's also involved with the software for the test preparation, and gee, Gates gonna supply everything else. And we had a big scandal in Los Angeles a few years ago. Tests are used to evaluate teachers based on student test scores. And in Mexico, it's a direct test that part of education reform is that teachers themselves be tested, and teachers that are active in the CNTE, the progressive movement within the official union, have been resisting those tests and have been beaten, and some have been killed in those demonstrations, particularly in the southern states of Mexico, where the CNTE has been very strong as opposed to the official corrupt SNTE, the main union. Let me see. Oh, and now Guatemala, the teachers are protesting because they want to impose the same kind of testing. Education reform in Mexico, I said. Privatizations of services on school sites. We're cutting all these courses like special ed, cleaning, bus drivers, and this sort of forced crises, economic crises, and then, oh gee, the government will come in, oh, we can't afford it anymore because we have this manufactured poverty, so we'll bring the private folks in. At the college and university level, we see student debt becoming one of the top debts in the United States, increasing tuition at public universities, corporate money that does come into the university is being used for research, private interest taking over the land by around some of our colleges, like Laney College in Oakland. The A's are putting in a playing field there. City College of San Francisco, the public land where people park, they're putting in luxury buildings for 1,100 units, which is going to be forcing people out of both communities. It's part of becoming world-class cities. And now they even are going to put, not only do we have that going on, now they're going to put a tax on grad students. And a tax on graduate students. So how are we gonna pay that? I mean, I was active when we were trying to organize the teachers, the TA union back in the 70s. We also had the cut in staff, not, professors, maintenance, et cetera, and we have what's a part of a process of creating a precariat. 80 are part-time workers, the precario. And this is going on in Mexico and Canada as well. In the United States, 80% of our faculty nationally are part-time workers. Some of them make less than fast food workers. There have been 2 newspaper articles about 2 professors, one was in San Jose, one in San Francisco, who are women living in their cars because they cannot afford a house. So we went on the test scores. Oh, and of course, Puerto Rico right now. They're refusing to open the schools that were destroyed under the hurricane. The official teachers union, the FMPR, and the community have been going out every day in brigades and cleaned up schools. They're ready to open. The Secretary of Education has refused to open them. Had a nice visit from Betsy DeVos and said, we want to use the Katrina model. Remember when Katrina came in to New Orleans, that's when all the schools were private, turned into charters. So she actually said verbatim, we want to apply the Katrina model.
Tell us who she is, please.
The Secretary of Education of Puerto Rico.
Of the United States.
And then the Secretary of Education of the United States went in to visit and support her position. Oakland schools are about to go into receivership again. And then the old bait and switch. Gee, your schools are substandard. We don't have money for them. Some private entity can come in. So like in New York or LA, we've got what we're called co-location of charter schools, which is basically colonialization.
Yes.
And don't tell me Puerto Rico's not a colony.
Yes, really.
And then, let's see, so we have the attack on our unions and our civil rights, which is certainly going on with our unions, and we make up 40% of public workers' unions are educators. And this whole process of converting educators to part-time, going over that, Teach for America, that is also making a part-time labor force at the school level, where we don't have union representation and people are temp workers. So this is part of a whole process we see throughout the country of creating temp workers in all areas.
For low wage, yeah.
Yes.
Or no jobs at all. And our union rights, they're trying to replace unions like in Puerto Rico and Mexico. It's a fight over government-backed unions. When they had a massive strike in Oaxaca in 2006, a new section, that was Sección 22, the official union, then the government-backed Section 59, which was like a government-backed union. Puerto Rico, there's the FMPR, and now they're pushing the AMPR to counter the real union and silence our voices. Pouring money into school board races, we've already discussed that. Cuts to pensions, and now this Janus Act that will be, okay, that's over. So, more
Janus.
insidious is the criminalization of our youth, the militarization of our schools. In Mexico, we've seen jovencidio. Look at the example of Ayotzinapa, with a 43 teacher, we're studying to be teachers. We have, of course, we all know about the U.S., the school-to-prison pipeline. Missouri now has a law that children that fight on a school site or in a school bus can be arrested as felons. This is for elementary school. This is part of the push-out. So instead of developing critical and creative analytical thinking abilities, we're schooling students for obedience and accepting the increasing militarization of society and more segregation in our schools again. Poor use of technology. Technology is not a problem, but when you put the kid in the corner because they don't understand and they gotta be doing individualized learning, what does that mean for the child? Again, the guilty until proven innocent, which we know happens if you're put in, quote, teacher jail, but we're now beginning to see that applied across the board throughout our society. The bases of this, I was just gonna get into the global economic crises that we're a part of. And at the end, I will pass out these. There was a conference, a tri-national conference in Mexico on NAFTA in May, and these are the proclamations our organization came out with.
Can you
Okay.
quickly surmise it?
Let's-
I'll hand it out for you to read.
She's gonna
Oh,
hand it
okay.
out. Right.
And, you know, and the attack on DACA students. I just want to get into the whole question of criminalization that's going on
Yes.
everything. If you fight for your rights, if you have water, if you fight to be a teacher and speak in the classroom, it's the criminalization across society.
Okay. Michael,
Yes, well, I introduced myself. I taught elementary school for 24.8 years. And talking, Rosemary mentioned criminalization. The entire privatization movement within the United States could not take place if we had strong teacher unions. But instead, we have teacher unions that go along in order to get along. This happens nationwide. The two largest teacher unions in the United States are the United Federation of Teachers in New York City and United Teachers LA here. The process of getting rid of older teachers puts more money in the budget of school districts. Recently, UTLA got a 2% raise, or 10% over 3 years, something similar. But the money that is coming from is not yet finalized. The school district wants to make it a one-time deal. Well, the extra money comes from getting rid of teachers my age. And the process is to generate write-ups. The teachers are evaluated, and they can, it's well established that a principal can over-evaluate a teacher in order to drive them out of the profession. Now, this only makes sense in terms of dollars and cents, money, if the teacher has taught for a couple of decades, because after that time, I was getting the maximum I could get based on my experience and my education. So there's this abusive process of supervision within the schools. And it's really very easy to do. Added to that is also generating false claims of anything serious, more child abuse, inappropriate behavior on the part of a teacher. And these things can be extremely minor. I know someone who lost her job because her cane, she walks with a cane, her cane fell over and hit a child. A cane doesn't weigh that much. It didn't hurt the child, and the child said, no problem. But she was written up, and that added to everything else resulted in her being pushed out. How can they do this? The Education Code in California gives teachers rights. Education is treated differently. Teachers are given rights of due process, which is more than, say, someone working at Walmart. We're not at-will employees. But using this system of teacher jail that is the union collaborates on. So the union, when they get our phone calls, they don't call us back. When they do get a hold of us, or when we get a hold of them, they say, well, there's nothing you can do. You just have to do what the administration tells you. They actually do, the United Teachers LA will actually ask you, how close are you to retirement? None of your damn business. Because we are supposed to be free people. We are supposed to be free people in a democracy who are able to make these decisions for ourselves based on what our rights are. But instead, UTLA may not have an actual agreement, written or verbal, but they understand what's at stake. The regime that's in charge at UTLA right now, they were elected in 2014 promising everything, promising all kinds of changes for teachers. But things have stayed the same, and they've gotten worse in many ways. The number of teachers that have been pushed out through teacher jail has increased. I estimate 5,000 and more. Teachers my age, the formula is quite simple. A teacher would cost the school district a lot of money if the sum of your age and your years of experience equal 80, then at that point you are given health benefits for the remainder of your life. Well, we know that at 65, Medicare kicks in. So the school district will also pay the Medicare premiums when a retiree turns 65. What they do is they calculate when they can start working on a teacher in order to get rid of him or her and avoid that. So none of that could happen if the union were the fighting union that I joined in 1984. It's very interesting. In LA, we have 1/5 of the students are in charter schools. So it takes quite a bit of money. Now, those charter schools vary in quality, but the claim that it's improving education is just not true, because education is a public good. Education should be improved across the board. Fine, but education is based on property values, more or less. And there are many more things that contribute to an education than just the money. But the money makes a big difference. Now, one very important way that education can be improved is to lower class sizes. UTLA does bargain for class size and does have it in our contract what size the classes can be. But they only go so far. And my favorite thing to do is to go look at the websites of private schools. There's not a private school in the world, and certainly not in the United States, that doesn't advertise low class sizes. So the wealthy people who send their kids to Sidwell Friends School in Washington see right there in the paperwork that they have classes of 20 students with 2 teachers. That's 10 kids per student. That's amazing. But
10 kids per teacher.
that's what I mean, 10 kids per teacher. But in LA Unified, we're lucky if you get 24 kids in lower grades and 35 kids in the upper grades. And in high school, the sky's the limit. It's huge classes. That's another place that UTLA does not fight. They have capitulated completely to the privatization, co-location of charter schools. Thank you. And it is impacting our schools. There have been a few campaigns at a few schools to oppose co-locations of charter schools on their campuses. UTLA has not been involved. They get in there at the very end with the cameras and have a photo opportunity. But my friends who've been in that fight tell me that they have to organize it by themselves. Part of the reason is AFT and NEA are pushing to sign up charter school teachers. They cannot fight against one section of their own membership, but that section of their own membership is not the traditional teacher. And just allowing them in is an indication that they have given up, and they're fine with the neoliberal privatization of education. Let's see, I'm about done. I wanted to add some, the money's still flowing in. CTA, California Teachers Association, receives money for foundations, 2 foundations. The Institute for Teaching was begun by Bill Gates with his money. And after some time, they separated from Gates because they felt he had too much influence. Well, that's okay, you just bring in another billionaire. So now they have the Californians Defending Education Foundation, which is also has CFT and CTA participating, and they get money from the same privatizers. It was begun with money from the Arnold Foundation, and they received money from the Broad Foundation, the Hewlett-Packard Foundation, and on and on and on. None of these foundations are interested in improving public education. They are interested in taking it over. Thank you.
Let me talk a little bit about higher education and privatization. And I teach at community colleges, and so it will be primarily related to that, but it can also be related both to CSU and UC just as well. I think one of the main things that has happened in the last 10, 15 years truly is that big corporations and corporate America has decided to really take over higher education and mold it into the image of the corporate model of education that we talked about here. And basically it's to do one thing, is to train the workforce for their corporate, the 1%. That's what it's all about. So they need high-level skilled people. So they say, you gotta get more degrees. That's the big mantra. Even Obama says you need 3 million more BA degrees by 2015 or 2020 or something like that. And in California, we're supposed to get 2 million more BA degrees by 2020. And even Tim White at CSU said we're going to have 100,000 more BA degrees by 2025 or something like this. So this is a big mantra, is that completion and getting that degree or transfer or getting out is really critical. And the other part of it is many businesses and jobs, they used to do a lot of training for their workers to do specific kinds of jobs. They don't want to invest that money anymore. So what are they going to do? They said the colleges have CTE programs that they can go ahead and do those and train them for those jobs. So let's go ahead and fund CTE programs and make sure that they are training the jobs for these low-skill, low-wage jobs that are out there. And that's what they've done. All of a sudden, in terms of education in community colleges today, there's a big push to get more people to graduate, transfer to CSU, UC, and also CTE education. Those are the 2 avenues. Anything in between that, forget it. They don't want it. And so that's why it's not emphasized, and that's why they're trying to make them disappear. So basically their philosophy is to make education an economical, not a cultural or a benefit of the individual. That's the societal benefit, who cares? Cultural benefit, who cares?
Yeah.
Personal benefit, who cares? Just you get it so you can benefit the 1%. That's the whole goal of it. They want us to be consumers of education, not students of education. That's the philosophy. So they want to get and fulfill their jobs. They see that the new technologies are the panacea for everything. That's why they have such an emphasis on online education today. It's huge in community colleges, gigantic push. I can talk about that if you want. Performance-based funding. They want to pay for performance because that's the way it kind of works for them in their jobs. That doesn't work in education, but that's the way that they see it. So they can't see it in any other way. And we fought bill after bill after bill trying to move community colleges into some sort of performance-based funding model, which is out there. They want to streamline the education to make it the cheapest possible. Get rid of all these regulations that we absolutely hate, like the 50% law in community college. 50% law means at least 50% of all the funds have to go toward the classroom and the students.
Ah,
They don't like that.
yeah.
They hate that, you know? 75-25, about, the goal is that 75% of all of our classes should be taught by full-time faculty. They don't want that. They want all part-timers. They don't, full-timers is just a big waste of money,
And
you know?
no rooms.
Yeah, and we're part of the governance structure. They want to take us out of governance, faculty out of governance. That's the whole goal here. They want competency-based education, right? And they see remedial education as a waste of money. Because they say they're not gonna be successful anyway, why are we paying all this money, just get rid of it. And that's what's been happening with many of the bills and the directions that we're going in higher education, which is very, very tragic to me. So, a couple of things that are really bothersome to me. One is that all of a sudden, degrees and certificates, transfers, that has become the de facto model of what a successful college is supposed to be, what a community college is supposed to be. And that's, while, I'm all for trying to get as many people to go ahead and graduate as possible, which is important. But something in community colleges here, only 25% of our students actually graduate with a degree and then transfer to CSU or UC. So, what about the other 75% that don't make it? Is there a place for them in this society? Is there a place for them in this corporate world? All of a sudden, to them, it's a waste of time. But those 75% of the students that I see in my classroom, they're gonna be out there in the community. They're gonna have jobs. They're gonna work in small businesses or others, which collectively, small businesses is just as big of an economic factor in our community as any gigantic corporation is.
Huge, actually.
Yeah, so it is the backbone of the economy, and truly. But it's not recognized. And we don't recognize these students who, I always say, we have to fight for every student. We have to fight for every dream, every aspiration, every one of them, whether they get their degree or not, whether they are deemed successful or not, which is only those that graduate. No, those that, just the fact that they have come and can make their lives a little bit better. That is worth it.
And
That
the
is worth it.
family and community.
Absolutely, it's critical for the family, community, society, everything. So this is the struggle, and this is the fight that we truly have. Just to give you an idea of the things that we fought against, there's two-tiered student fees, in which rich kids can go ahead and pay the full amount in community colleges to get the classes, whereas those that can't afford it, they can just go by the wayside. We fought that, we lost it actually. Massive open online courses. These are centralized, statewide run online courses. We fought that, and I fought that like crazy in the Capitol. We defeated that. But, Jerry Brown has come around and told the community colleges, I want a state-run, statewide, online community college, online. I want the proposal by November, just last month, and one was presented.
Wow.
I mean, this is absolutely horrendous.
Mhm.
Because
It
it's.
undermines him.
Yeah, absolutely. And, who's gonna, who has, who are the people that are gonna help run this college? Who's gonna do the performance review of this college? Who develops the curriculum? It's all gonna be administration, it's all gonna be bureaucrats, it's not gonna be faculty.
And sets the precedent.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what's out. If you ever wanna look, you can go on to our state chancellor's website and look at Project Flow. That's the first beginning. Project Flow.
Okay.
It's horrendous. What does Project Flow do? It's gonna institute for the first time a competency-based education online and subscription-based education. Okay? So that just means that you pay a fee to go in, and you can go in and get information out for 6 months, and then you take a test to see if you passed or not. If you didn't, then you go in there and you do it again. You pay for 6 months. LCFF, well, it helped to try and equalize the funding. Didn't come close to doing that. The differences were just too great. between those schools that are very well off, because they're very well off communities, and those that are not as much. It did help a little in some places, but there's not enough money to equalize them out. So that's why you're still gonna see the difference. That's why I see it. I'll just mention one last thing,
Okay.
just 2 seconds.
One
Don't-
second.
Wait a minute, let him finish. No, okay.
Those things, again, that I wanna make sure you understand, this is money in community colleges and programs that are trying to be instituted that help one group of people. They are full-time students,
Right.
and they are transfer ready to take transfer level courses. And so those students, of which there's a very small number, about 20% of our students,
Right.
okay?
Uh-huh.
They're primarily from well-off families, very few of them of color. Okay, that's who we're gonna start to focus money on helping those students get through college. And the others, you can forget about. So you could take a look at whether it's Achieving the Dream is one, Guided Pathways. There's also the College Promise Program. There's also the SSSP, Student Success and Support Programs. Those are all there, of which collectively come out to about $1 billion,
Wow.
all to help those specific
Yeah.
types of students.
20% or less.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Segregation
So
again.
that's who what? Big business, Luna Foundation, Walmart Foundation,
Yeah.
Irvine Foundation, Gates Foundation, that's who they want. And that's who they want to support. But that's what's happening, is that they're filtering money to help a specific group. So for us in community colleges, and which I rail about, are we there to help that specific group of students primarily, or are we there to help everybody? And that's the problem, and that's what we're fighting for equity.
That's
Because this is
amazing.
inequitable. We're fighting for equity in community colleges.